Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be giving my research proposal on the following subject, the Ferguson Uprising, which specifically details police violence across municipalities by me, Shayla Sanders. So here it is. This is the abstract. This is essentially a summarization of what the whole proposal is about. But as you can see, it's a little wordy, so we're not going to read all that. But you can, at your earliest convenience, you can go back and read it and tell me what you think. Next, we have just a mini introduction of what the proposal is about. So essentially, the research question is what explains the differences in the level of police violence across municipalities. The motivating example is the Ferguson effect. The theory, post-Ferguson incidents of police brutality will be lower than pre-Ferguson, with an intervening variable being the level of crime or the racial makeup of the neighborhood. This research proposal will attempt to discover the differences in police violence across municipalities. The motivating example stems from the shooting of Michael Brown, an 18-year-old African-American man who was fatally shot by a 28-year-old Ferguson police officer. This case took place in Ferguson, Missouri, which inspired this research to study police violence. So the introduction continues. What is the Ferguson effect and what is the significance of this area of research? The Ferguson effect is the idea that increased scrutiny of the police following the Ferguson case led to an increase in crime rates in the major U.S. cities. Significance is demonstrated through specific cases after Ferguson, police citations, observing municipalities, steps taken to combat the injustice, statistics, and articles. The methods used to test this theory is content analysis, direct observations, studying criminal complaints, reviewing previous cases, and using a blending in method in testing the hypothesis. And so you can just read over that really quickly. Here it is. Speed this up a little bit. Next, we have the literature review. So, to further examine the research question, we looked at 6 scholarly articles that analyzed the relevance to the research topic. And the key ideas expressed throughout the articles were pre-Ferguson complaints from citizens, pre-Ferguson police aggression, the effects of post-Ferguson, the Ferguson era's progression, neighborhood crime levels, police use of force, and the interaction between citizens and police. So the first area that we wanted to look at was a study done by Holmes in 2000, which he hypothesized that minority threats are related to legal mechanisms of crime control. Police brutality is considered a legal mechanism of control. His method centered around he tested his theory by analyzing the greater number of threatening acts in people and also the greater number of police brutality, civil rights, criminal complaints filed with the U.S. Department of Justice. His findings was the measure of the presence of threatening people, consequently police, and majority says minority were related positively to average annual civil rights criminal complaints. Second article was by Sharp 2009, which his theory was that the distrust of local police in the U.S. creates a substantial race gap across municipalities. The methods was citizen survey data from 33 cities and data on policing characteristics in the city context for the same cities. The findings revealed that individual level factors are representative of a psychological model, are substantial in tapping into differences in the impact of police performance, influencing the race gap of crime. Third, Welter 1999 theory was police abuse is heightened over members of minority groups. This factor influences municipalities, and the methods was this article examined African Americans and whites' perceptions and experiences of 3 types of police misconduct: unjustified street stops of citizens, verbal abuse, and use of excessive force. The study is based on in-depth interviews with residents of 3 neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. Reisig 2000 was the theory that African Americans are more dissatisfied with the police rather than our Caucasians based upon 3 factors: experience with police, quality of life, and neighborhood context. Method: hierarchical linear modeling to simultaneously regress the outcome measure on clusters of citizens and neighborhood level variables. The analysis was conducted using recently collected data from Project on Policing Neighborhoods. The survey responses from 5,361 citizens residing in 58 neighborhoods. The findings was that the biggest factor that accounted for the greatest proportion is based on the quality of life. This variance provides the greatest directional accuracy. Residents of neighborhoods characterized by concentrated disadvantage express significantly less dissatisfaction with the police. Last, Holmes, 2018. His theory is that relatively large minority populations are subjectively perceived as threats and experience a higher incidence of police-caused homicides than whites do. The methods used data from large U.S. cities and conducted total incidence and group-specific analysis. He tested minority threats and community violence hypothesis. His findings: police-caused homicides are higher in minority groups, which leads to higher crime rates. Minority groups are perceived as threats by the police. So the causes and factors can be summed up as minority groups, divisions in race, higher crime rates in rural areas, neighborhood context, and police experiences and attitudes. So now, the theory and hypothesis. The proposed theory was 1. Post-Ferguson rates of police violence will be lower across municipalities than pre-Ferguson, and 2. Post-Ferguson rates of police violence will be lower across municipalities than pre-Ferguson, especially in municipalities with high minority population. The proposed theory being researched was chosen due to the rise in police brutality amongst minorities in different municipalities. The researcher seeks to find evidence that supports the hypothesis to further understand why police violence has heightened and citizen trust lessened. The Ferguson case set the stage for what has been taking place in society with the excessive force of police officers on citizens. Each hypothesis will attempt to make sense of the case as well as the differences associated with each. We are essentially testing whether or not police violence has increased amongst municipalities or stayed the same. The researcher wants to study the cause and effects of each hypothesis. Okay, so for this one, we have the statistical method, which talks about the unit of analysis, number of years, times the number of municipalities, number of units equal number of cities times number of years. And then the data collection will begin prior to 2014, the year of the Ferguson case, so that there is some before and after evidence to support the research. Then we have the methods will include comparing high as well as low minority areas, and then the 5 control variables. So we will operationalize each variable like this. The month and year before and after Ferguson, we will use the month and years of each case before and after Ferguson, and we will operation by the rate of similar instances where police violence was used. Minority groups will be race and population, operated by if a specific race experienced more or less police violence. Police brutality will be described by level of brutalness, aggressive or very aggressive. The level of brutality depending on the crime following cases and track the violence, operated by level of aggressive, high or low. Ferguson case, or the cases from post-Ferguson, operationalized to see if there was an increase of police violence after the case or not, and whether there was more or less. The variables. Whether the month or years before or after Ferguson, a municipality's rate of police violence, minority population high or low of a municipality, and the 5 control variables. In the U.S., the municipality is located in, average pay of officers in the municipality, number of police officers per capita, economic conditions such as unemployment rate. The control variables remain constant, and our alternative explanation is that the researcher can rule out. So the content analysis and sampling was basically media reports of police violence and legal complaints. The secondary method was a comparative case study, specifically a most similar system design, compares very similar cases which only differ in the dependent variable. We looked at a few municipalities in depth. Case 1, city before Ferguson. Case 2, city after Ferguson. What value or level does each case have on the main independent variables? Independent variable is high value. Dependent variable is high value. In what ways are these cases similar that we can eliminate as causes? It could be municipalities high, police violence high, and then pre and post Ferguson high as well. The in-depth cases we will be observing are a few municipalities, and it will be observed the Ferguson case and other cases in other municipalities where police violence was present. The people we will look at is citizens and some officers. We will essentially be analyzing municipalities with both high and low minority populations and analyze the result of police violence across municipalities and minority groups. So the budget and timeline, basically the budget will include travel expenses and the wages for the hours the researcher used to collect data. She will be using a more participant form, so the researcher will be doing everything more hands-on by herself. The timeline includes, this is just the timeline. It tells what we will be doing in each month. So in August, research the Ferguson case. September, formulate a hypothesis. October, observe the neighborhood. November, attempt to blend in. December, interview citizens and police. January, expand research to other cases. February, look for correlations. March, study other cases. April, analyze legal complaints. May, conduct interviews. June, do ride-alongs, hence the direct observations. July, create a case study. And finally, in August, organize the data, analyze results, decide whether the hypothesis is confirmed or denied. Expected findings, conclusions. We expect the findings to be consistent with the hypothesis that post-Ferguson effects will be lower than pre-Ferguson. This can be fortified through statistical analysis and a secondary method. The conclusion is that the research will help individuals understand the cause and effects of police violence on a municipality. This research will also use the Ferguson case as a foundation to further understand the 5 W's of the differences of police brutality across municipalities. If the hypothesis is not confirmed, this can be explained by an increase in crime perpetuating more police violence or citizens trying to gain revenge and taking matters in their own hands for the injustice surrounding the Ferguson case. Furthermore, if not confirmed, the next steps beyond this proposal will be utilizing focus groups or citizens and officers. And last is just a bibliography of everything we use in our literature review. Hopefully, this research proposal can help you further your research or analysis of this topic. And if not, hopefully you can spread the word and just gain some knowledge about police violence across municipalities. Thank you.